All right, hey, it's Micah here, and welcome to the video. It's just, a rather intriguing topic I'm going to cover for a minute here. I'm talking about my personal experience with this topic, out-of-body experiences, right? I know that a lot of people might listen to some of the stuff I'm going to say and think, wow, whatever, you're doing drugs, but maybe you'll hear some of the stuff I'm going to say and actually relate to it on some level, right? It depends on who you are, because I know probably everybody's, nearly everybody's maybe heard of an out of body experience, but, how many people have actually felt like they've had one, right? Now, would say that I've definitely had at least a few vivid out of body experiences, right? Now, and I certainly welcome you to comment below or tell me about an experience that you think might have been, an experience like that. Let me just get rid of some noise here. I got. But anyway, I'm talking about, out of body experiences specifically, right? Now, I think there's probably other experiences that could be seen like near death experience. Maybe you're in a traumatic event or something like that, and you're maybe unconscious or super conscious even, or conscious in a different way, and maybe you are out of your body in some way, what certainly seems totally plausible, right? But in this type of out of body experience, I'm talking about something that just can happen while you're sleeping, if you will. In fact, you could even induce it, right? And I'm talking about specifically my first out of body experience that I remember. It's possible maybe we have them and, we don't remember them possibly. I don't know, obviously, but my first out of body experience is when I was only 7 years old, right? 7 years old. So 7 years old, I had never heard about out-of-body experiences at that time. And like I said, you might be thinking, whatever, what are you talking about, bogus, you had a dream or something like that, right? Or you're on drugs or something right now. At 7 years old, I wasn't doing any drugs and never did any drugs of any kind that I could think of by that age. So certainly wasn't as a result of something like that. But I know some people might relate something like this to experiences like ayahuasca, LSD, marijuana, mushrooms, whatever. But I'm not talking about any drugs, right? I'm talking about totally conscious in your normally coherent state, right? But this first out of body experience, like you said, I'm only 7 years old. So at the time, I was living in the state of Florida, right? And the room I was in, I was sleeping in my room, right? Sleeping in my bed. And if you've been to Florida, you probably know it can be humid and warm at night, right? So sleeping in my bed, I probably had my covers halfway on or whatever. You have to excuse me because I have birds that could interrupt. But anyway, I'm talking about, being asleep at night. And then all of a sudden being like conscious, like you're in a dream, maybe. Now, I know that we talk about lucid dreams. I know many people know what a lucid dream is. A lucid dream where you realize that you're dreaming, right? This is different. This isn't a lucid dream, in my opinion. This is something totally different. This is an out-of-body experience. I'm sure maybe if you're watching this, you probably read or heard about out-of-body experience. Maybe you feel like you've had one. And like I said, I welcome you to leave any comments or testimonials of your own, if you want to call me crazy, whatever. But like I said, at 7 years old, sleeping in my bed, all of a sudden I became conscious. I don't really know the exact sequence of these events or these seeming events, but I was conscious in my room, and I was like floating at the top of my room, in my bedroom, like basically conscious at that point. Now, I don't know if that happened before or after, but the real experience that was intriguing, and you might relate to some of these different aspects of this what I call out of body experience, if you've ever had one, and tell me if you do, right? Because there are later on, years later, learning about out of body experiences, I came to see, wow, these were some of the same exact things that were happening in this experience when I was 7 years old. Right, so like I said, there's part of it when I'm in my room, I'm floating in my room, but there's another part of this experience where I'm actually in outer space. I know that sounds crazy, and like I said, I have a bird that likes to interrupt. I have a couple of them, but so please disregard them for the moment. But like I said, I was in outer space. If you could imagine this is the part that I think probably boggles a lot of people, like, whatever, bro, right? So, but in outer space right now, the thing about being in outer space is that I was totally conscious of my waking life. I was totally aware that I should be in my room sleeping at my place. I know what it looks like, and I know that I'm supposed to be in my waking. I know my waking life. I'm totally. It's not like just a lucid dream, though. This is like I'm really there, right? So I'm in outer space, and aspects of it seem to be like as if I was really in outer space. I know there's people going. Maybe there's this debate about the shape of the Earth going around. What I experienced in this experience is that the Earth was a globe. I was looking at the Earth, totally conscious of my waking life. And I can't obviously say how long I was there. It just felt like some, you know, almost instantaneous period of time where I had just some experiences real quick. And looking at the Earth, right, it's fascinating. But the sun seemed to be on the other side of it, like as if it was nighttime, which seemed to be compelling a little bit. I was fully aware and awake. Now, another aspect that I noticed in this experience is that there seemed to be a spiraling silver cord going down to the earth. It spiraled like in a pretty big spiral, just going down to the earth. And from my sense, it seemed to be some connection to my body down on the earth, like, some kind of umbilical cord or something, right? That's the way I sensed or perceived it. So this didn't seem like very long. Another thing that I did sense is that the moon was behind me. I sensed that the moon was behind me. I don't know if I would say I saw it or what, right? I'm in this out-of-body state, right? So things are very surreal. It's hard to explain, what it's like. You're in this out-of-body consciousness all of a sudden, and you seem to be able to see, almost like as if you're a human, like, a sense of behind and a front, right? So it's weird in that respect. It's so many aspects of it that just totally intrigue me, right? But like I said, there for some period of time, noticing the Earth in front of me as a globe, right? So, I'm 7 years old. I'm 7 years old, right? Maybe even second grade or something like that, right? So it's not like I had a lot of exposure to sciences and all that stuff and, the shape of the earth or whatever. I was 7 years old, right? So it's having this experience. So I'm in outer space. All of a sudden I become conscious and I'm like realizing that, yeah, I'm definitely, this is wow, like what the heck? And it kind of freaked me out to the point where it's like, I guess I kind of all of a sudden went back towards where my body was at. Now, when I went back, all of a sudden I'm in my bedroom, like I thought myself there or something, right? Or kind of tried to wake up or something because I was a little shocked, maybe, right? So all of a sudden I'm in my room, and maybe that's when I was floating in the room. For all I know, this maybe happened more than once. I can't recall exactly, but I know the one time for sure at this place, right, where I was living in Florida. And I'm like getting back in my room. This is like the silver cord, right? Now, there's also another element that I did remember pretty vividly was this heavy vibration feeling, like in the back of my neck. Heavy vibration. Didn't hurt or anything. It just felt like a heavy vibration, like as if you had some kind of I don't know if you get like maybe if you go for chiropractic and they might put some kind of heat therapy or something on your back. It felt something like that, or some kind of vibration or something like that down your back, right? So, that was an element that I definitely noticed from this. And then that and the silver cord, total consciousness, 7 years old. It sounds crazy. Most people will be listening to it like, whatever. I'm probably going to click off and be like, yeah, I got to go. But maybe you connect with some of this and you've had something like this. Let me know, like you said, if you have. But the heavy vibration. But also, another thing is when I was back in my room, like I said, floating in my room, and there's some other elements to that too. But one of the main things, when I was trying to wake back up from this experience, like I kind of shocked and, I don't know if maybe I wasn't like necessarily trying to stay in this experience per se. I was probably trying to wake up or something at that point. But at one point I was, consciously like back in my bed, But the thing was, is I was paralyzed, right? I couldn't just wake up for some period of time, maybe 5 minutes, 15 minutes, I don't know. It's hard to say. But I was not able to move, but I was there in my bed. I didn't feel like scared per se. It just felt like as if I just couldn't control my body. But I was laying in my bed there in my body, like as if I was not fully in my body, right? So I don't know how long that lasted, but this paralysis, right? Now these are things I definitely noticed at the time. Definitely noticed them at the time. It's not like later on I said, oh wait, I noticed this and that, and this, and like probably none of it. Really, this is stuff I definitely noticed at the time. So there's other elements of this out-of-body experience I had, but later on, years later, when I was 12 years old, right? And this experience stayed with me enough for me to remember it pretty well. You know what I mean? So when I was 12 years old, at one point, I somehow ran across this. I was kind of maybe getting into reading and stuff like that, or I can't remember exactly. But when I was 12 years old, I started reading this book called Far Journeys, because I think I told someone about this experience, a family member, and they might have told me something about out-of-body experiences, and I started looking into it a little bit, right? But not like until some years later that I actually started looking. I was 7 years old. I didn't really, think about it probably at that time, but I remember the experience. So maybe years later, I mentioned it to somebody, and they told me about that experience. I started looking it up. I found this book called Far Journeys by Robert Monroe, and maybe you've heard of it. Most people probably haven't, but this book, Far Journeys by Robert Monroe, and he had another book. Can't remember what it was called, something similar. And he is the founder of an institute in, I believe, Virginia called the Monroe Institute, right? And actually kind of devoted to this topic, right? Many people probably heard of this. That have ever studied any of this stuff. Sorry, my bird's going crazy all of a sudden. But like I said, the Monroe Institute, where he studies this processes and mind altering sounds and so forth, high hemisync and so forth, right? So, like I said, at 12 years old, I started reading this book, Far Journeys, and he's talking about how, I don't think he had ever, he might have been a Christian all his life and just never had anything like an out-of-body experience. And all of a sudden, in his middle age or a little bit later life, he all of a sudden has some out-of-body experience, like where he falls through the couch and he realizes, wait a minute, he's not even in his body and he's fully conscious and all this stuff. So I'm reading this book, and then he starts telling me about how he's able to all of a sudden start inducing these, and he's doing them regularly, right? He's talking about all his experiences like he has with other entities. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, right? Sure, but reading this book, just because I had this experience, it was making sense to me in a lot of ways. Now, I didn't necessarily remember talking to other entities in this one experience. I had other out-of-body experiences a few times in my life after that I can recall very vividly. Right, there were definite out-of-body. I'm in my place. I can remember my waking life. I can remember stuff I did that day, right, in detail, right. So those happened later on, a few of them, but this one, like you said, led me to read this book, Far Journeys by Robert Monroe. And if you haven't checked out this book, if you are compelled by this topic, I would go read this book, Robert Monroe's book, Far Journeys, as soon as possible. You can probably check out some summaries of it online as well, but reading the book itself is a unique experience. You're hearing Robert Monroe talk about his experiences going out of body, and they're so vivid that they match the stuff that I was experiencing. And then later on, I also started looking deeper into out-of-body, not real deep into it, but enough to see that, out-of-body experiences have been around for, thousands of years, that they've documented, out-of-body experiences, which makes sense, right? But, I think the Egyptians probably had some art that depicts out-of-body experience, or what looks like that at least. So, seeing that it was something that's been talked about for a long time, but I did see that these key traits are indeed common amongst others who had out-of-body experiences. The key traits that I had on this first very vivid out-of-body experience, which sounds crazy because being in outer space, that doesn't sound possible, right? How would I be in outer space, right? As, I guess, some kind of spirit body or something. Um, but seeing that all these other people had these experiences, they had the heavy vibrations was a thing, right? That they had. A silver cord was a common occurrence amongst people who said they had out of body experiences. A silver cord. And as a matter of fact, I think I sensed that that's where the silver cord was actually somehow connected to my neck, if you will, like the back of my head or whatever. I mean, like I said, it didn't feel like I had a body per se. I was just conscious and seemed to have a front and back to where I could see, like wasn't like, I don't know if I could feel like I could see 360 around me or anything like that. But, the idea is like you're able to think yourself into a situation, like, all of a sudden I became conscious and I'm back in my room, right? But, was I really, sorry, I get interruptions, but like I said, was I really in outer space? That's a fascinating question to me. Right? I know that many listening to this are thinking, no, you weren't in outer space, but from my perspective, it was very real, right? I was fully conscious when it happened, right? And like I said, I had really never heard of out-of-body experiences to my knowledge at that point in my life. So I didn't have any reason to be, having some kind of dream about these specific elements of this experience, like heavy vibrations and being fully conscious, paralysis, momentary paralysis. Definitely very real. I'm conscious. I can't move, right? Paralysis. And a few other factors to it. So, I certainly, like I said, if you've had one, please tell me about maybe some other traits that maybe you noticed while you had one that you could recall, and feel free to share them. No matter how crazy you think it sounds, let me know what and maybe you've ever had an experience like anything like what I just talked about, being in outer space, which sounds, like you said, ridiculous, but a couple compelling factors. The sun seemed to be on the other side of the earth, like it matched as if it was really like nighttime on my side of the earth. That seems silly, I know, but that's what I recall happening. So, I appreciate you listening here, but, some of their videos are just about various topics, but this here is really about a rather unique topic, in my opinion. A lot of people have probably had out-of-body experiences and maybe didn't even really know it. Maybe they thought it was a lucid dream. Maybe you had a lucid dream. Certainly had plenty of those, but in the lucid dreams, I didn't notice, the heavy vibrations, the back of my neck, the silver cord, paralysis, stuff like that. No, I mean, I was lucid in my dream, and I could even wake myself up, and maybe it was a little tough to wake up, but it didn't feel like the paralysis that I recall in this out-of-body experience. Now, I had other out-of-body experiences, like I said. One time I was living in New Mexico. I remember, I had made a sale at my job that day, and I was like really excited, and anyway, I got to bed and fell asleep, and somehow, all of a sudden in the middle of the night, I'm fully conscious, and I'm like getting up out of my bed. I'm in my same apartment. I'm at my place, but I'm walking around my bedroom, and I guess my body's laying in the bed. That's the way it feels. I don't know if I like specifically looked at my body per se, but that's the way it felt. But there were a couple of nuanced differences. Like, it felt like it was raining outside, and I don't think it really was raining, right? But I was in my apartment. I was fully conscious, and I was fully aware of my waking life, including the exact details of what I did that day. And in that state, I attempted to explore for a few minutes, walking into my kitchen, maybe around my apartment or something a little bit. Not like a whole lot of stuff happened in that experience, but it was just enough to be very real, a very real out-of-body experience, right? So I can't remember any other attributes of that one that I would say stood out super strong. But then now, after having that strong experience at 18 or 19 years old, I had this other out-of-body experience. I probably had some between, but like I said, this is like years later. I've read about out-of experience and stuff. I didn't really get into like, doing that much. I might have tried to like induce them a few times. Don't know if I ever thought I had any success, but I was just a kid, I was like maybe 12, 15, that kind of thing. But like I said, at 18, I do remember this one real vivid out-of-body experience I had, the one where I was walking around my apartment. And so that was pretty, it was very real, right? So then I moved to Washington State for a short while, right around that time. And when I moved to Washington, at that time I started reading one of his books, Robert Monroe's books, and I even just got into trying to make an out-of-body experience happen. All right, and how would I do it? The idea was to try to let your body fall asleep while your mind was still awake. And that sounds crazy. And at 18 years old, somehow, after trying it a few nights, good, I don't know how long in a row, but for a while, all of a sudden one night I'm laying on my stomach with my pillow. And somehow I just start rising up out of my bed. I know that people are thinking, whatever, you're on crack. But it was very real to me. I was very vivid. I was fully conscious and aware of my waking life, and I was in my room at my place. So it made sense. Like I was really having an out-of-body experience all of a sudden. I was rising out of my bed, laying down like on my stomach, I guess. I don't know if I was really trying, but I kind of was. Like I wasn't, like I probably would normally try to do it on my back at the time. And it's not like I'm always doing this. I haven't done this in a long time to try to do an out-of-body experience. It's just something I was doing at the time to try to see if I could do it again for whatever reasons. I don't know what the purpose really is. I have no idea. I have no idea what you could do in that state that would be useful. And I had some other interesting dreams, like one dream where I felt like I was really definitely going to get some kind of intriguing or secret information, and you just felt like you're definitely getting it, but somehow when I woke up I just couldn't remember what it was. And so it was like so weird how vivid it felt that I'm definitely going to remember this revealed information in this dream. This is another experience, but anyway, I don't know that that was an out-of-body experience per se, but it was just fascinating the way how real it felt that I was gonna get revealed some information. I can't remember the scenario, but then I'm like, oh, I'm definitely gonna remember this one. Like I knew I was like a lucid dream or something, maybe an out-of-body experience. I don't know, but like I felt like I was definitely gonna remember this when I wake up. Like it was a lucid dream. I knew I was dreaming, but I was just about to be revealed some information, maybe by some entity or somebody in the dream or whatever. Felt like it was definitely gonna remember when I woke up. I just couldn't remember what I saw or might have heard or whatever. It was like pretty crazy. There's just one time I remember this one dream like that. But like I said, in 18 in Washington State, trying to do an out-of-body experience, I actually made at least that one happen. It probably made them happen intentionally, at least a couple, few other times, maybe at the most. But it was like I really got into trying to do it all the time. But I have certainly had a good few out-of-body experiences where what I'm talking about, like I say, is you're trying to let your body go to sleep while your mind's still awake. And I would do these little tricks like trying to repeat a mantra as I'm falling asleep, or I will remember my dream, or I will remain awake, or something. I would say some words like that. So as I'm falling asleep, I'm thinking about that phrase. And I think that was like the main trick that possibly seemed to help me actually induce one, right? So that phrase was like, I'm just dreaming, or, I'm going to have an out-of-body experience or something like that, right? So, and I would just repeat it over and over in my mind and let my mind kind of just let everything else just totally loose as I try to fall asleep, but remain conscious, if you can imagine that, right? So anyway, that's what I actually did a few times, it seems. I don't claim to know exactly what it is. I have no idea. I didn't experience anything that I felt like. I know a lot of people claim that they had an experience or a near-death experience or something, and they experienced, some kind of, God or something. I can't say I felt like I experienced anything like that. It certainly didn't feel like it was a near-death experience, like I was going to be going, like that was going to be it or something. It just felt like some kind of supernatural experience. I'm out of my body, right? But, like I said, I mean, I didn't experience any consciousness that felt like it was, a god or something like that. I probably felt like I experienced some other entities in some of these, but I don't know that I communicated with anything, right? Maybe there were some other spirit entities. I have no idea. I really don't. All I know is what I experienced. So I appreciate you listening. I could probably ramble on some more about this topic and a few other experiences that I had in this realm, but I welcome you to leave a comment and tell me I'm it was drugs, I'm crazy, I'm paranoid, I'm delusional, whatever, right? But at the same time, for those of you, if you happen to be one of those that did listen because maybe you had some similar experience or you could relate to some element of what I just said, maybe you feel like you had an experience but you're not sure, and I appreciate you listening. I certainly welcome to like and subscribe, of course, but maybe I'll have some other videos on this topic or some other topics that you'll be interested in. But, the idea here is just to kind of cover some personal experience and testimonial on this topic, out-of-body experiences. So I appreciate you listening in, and I'll probably be back maybe again. Maybe we'll see you again sometime. But share your thoughts, like and comment, maybe subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.